Junior. Junior is a 7-year-old black-crowned night heron. They are the most widespread herons in the world, living in freshwater, saltwater, and brackish wetlands. As a night heron, they mostly hunt between the evening and early morning hours. Being opportunistic hunters, their diet can include crayfish, mussels, fish, amphibians, and lizards. Junior loves fish, but he's not the only one hungry this morning. On an average day, we go through about 20 pounds of seed, 5 pounds of fish, 55 pounds of meat, and 380 worms. That's a lot of food. And we rely on volunteers to prep and feed most of our wildlife.
So this is Junior. Junior is a black-crowned night heron, and he actually came to Liberty Wildlife. He's going to go to his nest. Here, you need your food. He came to Liberty Wildlife. He was what we call an imprint. So somebody had had Junior for over a month, and they decided to turn him in, and they turned him into Arizona Game and Fish. And once he was there, it was definite that he was an imprint. So what he's doing right here is some of his behaviors where he's social. They are a social bird. And Junior here, what he's done is he's decided to build a nest. And the males typically will start building the nest. They pick a spot. Then the females say yes, and then the female starts to build, and he brings all the sticks. He'll sit there and he'll court us, and he does a lot of courting behaviors, but he's basically a really friendly bird. And the fun thing about the black-crowned night herons is that these guys, they are crepuscular. They do hang out and are most active around nighttime and in dusk. But being a nighttime hunter, he has a lot more options. And they are one of the few herons that also use tools to help hunt. And what they'll do, which is this really cool thing, is they'll take an item and they'll toss it like a leaf or something into the water within range for them, which means the fish will come up to grab that leaf, and that enables them to strike out and grab that fish. He does like mice. They like crustaceans, frogs, lizards, other things, which he can hunt in his lovely enclosure here. That gives him a little bit of behavioral enrichment. So one of the reasons I'm in here with Junior is Junior and I have a special bond. He likes a lot of people, but him and I, we kind of hang out, and I think part of the reason why he's bonded well with me and a couple others is because we were the ones that when he first came here, and we had to start working with him and try to give him some behavioral enrichment and get him into some type of behaviors to keep him doing things that are safe and fun for him, to encourage him and make his day brighter, you know. And I think that's partly why he really likes to have us involved in his life. So he's one of the few birds that we all get to have a little more contact with, which is kind of fun.
Groot is a coatimundi, and that's a species that's native to the Southwest, and we have them all around the valley, but they are not found in Indiana, which is exactly where we got him from. Local rescue had picked him up from a confiscation. Somebody had him as a pet illegally. Luckily, the rescue knew Liberty Wildlife and realized that a Southwest mammal didn't belong in Indiana in the wintertime, and so they bought him a ticket on Southwest Airlines and brought him to Liberty Wildlife. And we've had him for about 2.5 years now. Groot was about 8 months old when he came to live with us. He was also known to be very mischievous, so it really was just a matter of getting him used to the enclosure, getting him used to us coming in and feeding him. And he liked us from the beginning, but he didn't understand his boundaries. And so we really had to work with him on learning that we weren't play toys, and he couldn't crawl on us and he couldn't bite us. And then eventually we started being a little bit more tactile with him, and certainly got him to take naps in our laps, and that was probably the joy of our days when we'd go and sit in the enclosure and he would fall asleep in our arms. In working with Groot, we really wanted to make sure that he had a lot of natural behaviors that a wild coati would have, so that he wouldn't get bored in his enclosure, so that his mind would still be really active, and he'd be a happy coati here at Liberty Wildlife. In doing so, obviously, I was spending a lot of time working with him. We have a really great relationship now. He can read my cues, I can read his cues fairly well. And in doing that, I noticed a couple weeks ago that he developed a limp, and that's part of our job here with our education animals, is to make sure that we're keeping an eye on them daily to make sure their weights they're okay, that their health is okay. And so once we noticed that he had a limp, we realized we had to get him in to our vets to take a look and see what was going on and how we could help him. We have some really amazing volunteer vets, and so between Dr. Lamb helping out and the great state-of-the-art X-ray machine that we have, we were able to come to a diagnosis and a plan for getting Groot back to health.
My name is Stephanie Lamb. I'm one of the veterinarians who volunteers here at Liberty Wildlife. Looking at the X-ray we have of Groot here, we took an image of his limbs because he was having pain when he was walking around. This is his right limb, this is his left limb. The right limb, we are isolating the joint that was causing him some discomfort. If we look at our left limb, that's normal. You can see we have the humeral bone coming down. The ends of the bones are called condyles, and we have this joint space between the humeral bone and then the radius and the ulna bone. On this side, we don't really have that nice joint space that we are supposed to have, and we have some changes to the edge of the bone that are indicative of arthritis. We are really focused on their comfort, so we're putting them on anti-inflammatories to help them feel more comfortable in the joint. We are putting them on omega-3 fatty acids and also joint supplements, all with the goal of helping this joint be as healthy and as comfortable as possible.
And because of all the great effort and the work that we do together, we got him back to health. He's walking fine. He's happy to come out and see the public. And we just love our team, and we love that they're all there to take care of the animals every day.
Liberty Wildlife is much more than a wildlife rehabilitation organization, and our education programs are proof of that. By educating the public about wildlife all around us, we foster a greater community awareness of the issues that wildlife face.
So this is Aurora, and Aurora is one of our educational eagles here at Liberty Wildlife. She's 17 years old this year. She came in, she's at a very young age. She had injured her left eye. Without dual vision, she doesn't have the depth perception that it takes for her to hunt in the wild. She gets to be an educator, a teacher. We take her to a lot of school programs and take her out where the public can meet her. And our hope is that through her exposure to the public, that everyone who gets to meet Aurora will go away caring about their wildlife more than they did prior to that. I've been at this for pretty close to almost 30 years. Working with an eagle and developing their trust, getting them used to being around you. A lot of it has to do with putting yourself in the eagle's place, trying to realize what it is that they're dealing with. You bring them their food each day, you spend time with them, you get them used to the idea that you're going to be kind and you'll be nice to them, and they'll get fed and cared for, and they actually look for you at this point when you show up in the morning. They bugle at you, they talk to you, but they communicate with you that they're happy to see you. A lot of working with an eagle or any raptor is the bird's behavior. You want to watch what's going on with the bird. So a lot of working with the bird is the process of developing their trust, getting them used to you, you getting used to them. They're all just as much an individual as we are. This one works really well with me, won't work with anybody else. It's a single person bird. This one, at 3 years into working with her in the spring of her 3rd year here at Liberty Wildlife, at 13 years old, she decided she wanted to be a mom. She laid 2 eggs trying to make me the baby daddy. She's that bonded up. But having her out in front of the public, where we've got her out so everybody can meet their wildlife and learn kind of what they're about, that's the important part of what she does. When we get her out in front of, especially like the veterans and the older citizens, they get real teary-eyed. It kind of sets them off a little bit. They're very happy to get to see their national bird. When you're working with them, you know, you just got to be very cognizant of what they're going through and what's going on around them, so that nothing's going to disturb them, so that their time with you is a very nice and easygoing thing. And and we hand feed her all of her food, and that's what creates a lot of the trust or bond.
Welcome to Liberty Wildlife's Non-Eagle Feather Repository, or NEFR. NEFR was founded in 2010 to provide a way for Native Americans to legally obtain non-eagle feathers. Access to feathers is vital to the preservation of Native American cultures. Recognizing this issue, NEFR sends feathers free of charge to tribes across the United States for use in religious and cultural ceremonies. There are many ways that animals come to us for care. Some of the animals' journeys begin with a call to our hotline, where our volunteers advise the public on the best course of action. Most are brought to the facility through our intake window, which is open every day from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Animals that can't be safely contained by the public, such as raptors, mammals, and bats, are rescued and brought to our facility by one of our trained rescue transport volunteers. Tucker, a great horned owl, was one of these animals that needed rescue. Tucker was hit by a car. The person who hit him kept driving home, parked, and went inside. They didn't realize until the next morning that Tucker was still in the grill of the car. They immediately called us, and we sent out a rescue volunteer who had to remove him with bolt cutters. Tucker suffered from head trauma, a fractured left wing, and a fractured left leg. He recovered from the head trauma and the leg injury, but his wing didn't heal well enough for him to be able to fly properly. So he lives out his days here as an educational ambassador.
When I first saw Tucker, he was in such bad shape, and it's so hard always to see an animal who's so mangled and injured and scared, and whose life has just taken a complete turn, and they don't know where they are or what's happening to them. And you can just see the fear and the sadness. But if you look at him, how gorgeous he is, this is what happens when they get really good care. And so he's a beautiful, beautiful owl now, and he had a real will to live. He fought hard, and he rebounded quickly, and so he's made a wonderful addition to our ambassador program. Because these animals are with us instead of flying free, we want to be careful that we are providing them with adequate enrichment to keep them stimulated and to be able to just spend their time in a way that is not just sitting. So in addition to coming out on the glove and interacting with people, there are a number of things we can do for enrichment. Some of these birds, because they squeeze with their feet for a living, some of them really enjoy having a rubber ball or some other large rubber toy in their cage that they can squeeze, play with, carry around. Some of the species are very curious and like to investigate things, and they have toys and bells and things in their cage to carry around. A number of our birds are able to fly but not able to be released, and they have been flight trained, and we can fly them, and do often in the mornings for their breakfast, fly them between volunteers so that they get some exercise, they get that enrichment. And then there's always the natural enrichment that occurs when a squirrel or a snake or something ventures into their enclosure. Woe be to them, because these are birds of prey.